Welcome to the Black Narrative, where Black stories are told honestly, unapologetically, and with purpose. Before we begin, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and share this video. Because every story deserves to be heard, and our voices can no longer be ignored. The grand courtroom, bathed in the soft morning light that filtered through heavy drapes, cast long shadows across the polished wooden floor. Though imposing in design, the room felt suffocating, filled with a mix of curious spectators, journalists scribbling notes, and a few faces etched with quiet tension. Among them sat Monica Jackson, her serene exterior belying the turmoil beneath the surface. Her dark brown skin glowed faintly under the artificial light, and her neatly braided hair rested on her shoulders. Monica sat upright, her back straight as if guided by an invisible string, her hands clasped lightly in front of her. She was modestly dressed in a crisp white blouse and black slacks, a deliberate choice to exude humility and respect. Yet, her sharp eyes scanned the room with precision, taking in every face, every movement. To the casual observer, she looked like any other defendant, but to those paying close attention, there was something unusual about her. A quiet intensity that seemed out of place for someone accused of a violent crime. The bailiff called the court to order, and all eyes turned to the front of the room where Judge Howard Grayson, an older white man with thinning silver hair, entered. He carried an air of authority, though his face betrayed a weariness that came from years of presiding over cases he'd rather forget. This one, however, seemed to ignite a spark of interest in him, perhaps due to the presence of Officer Bradley Simmons sitting smugly at the plaintiff's table, or the murmurings of a case that had already captured the attention of local news outlets. "State versus Monica Jackson," the bailiff announced, his voice echoing off the high ceilings. Monica rose, her movements deliberate and controlled, and faced the judge. Whispers in the room grew louder as people craned their necks for a better view. Officer Simmons leaned back in his chair, his expression one of confidence, almost amusement. Dressed sharply in his police uniform, the officer exuded the kind of arrogance that comes from years of unquestioned authority. The prosecutor began by calling Officer Simmons to the stand. With exaggerated movements, as if performing for an unseen audience, Simmons made his way to the witness stand. He paused briefly to glance at Monica, his smirk faint but unmistakable, a predator sure of his prey. As he took the oath, Monica studied him, observing the way his fingers fidgeted slightly, the subtle shift in his posture as he sat down, details most would overlook, but Monica cataloged them with the precision of someone trained to read body language. Simmons began his testimony. "On the evening in question, I was responding to a disturbance call near the east side of town. I encountered the defendant, Miss Jackson, loitering outside a closed business. Murmurs spread through the courtroom. Loitering was often used as a catch-all accusation, especially against people of color. Simmons pressed on, seemingly unfazed. When I approached her and asked what she was doing there, she immediately became hostile. She refused to identify herself, raised her voice, and when I attempted to de-escalate the situation, she physically assaulted me." Simmons then claimed Monica hit him in the chest and attempted to reach for his service weapon, leaving him no choice but to restrain her. After Simmons stepped down, it was Monica's turn to testify. In a steady, measured voice, Monica stated, "The officer's account is not only inaccurate but intentionally misleading." She explained that she was on her way home from visiting a friend and stopped to check her phone for directions when Officer Simmons approached her. She questioned Simmons why he needed her identification when she hadn't done anything wrong. Monica corrected the prosecutor. "I questioned his motive, not his authority, as she wasn't obstructing traffic, trespassing, or causing any disturbance." She testified that Simmons grabbed her arm without provocation, and when she tried to pull away, he slammed her against the patrol car, accusing her of resisting arrest. Monica also firmly denied attempting to reach for Simmons's weapon, calling it a fabrication to justify his use of force. The next day, Benjamin Carter, Monica's lawyer, played a video recording captured by a bystander. The footage, though shaky and partially obscured, clearly captured Simmons' voice ringing out, "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," as his hand gripped Monica's arm. Monica's calm yet firm voice followed, "I'm not resisting. Let go of my arm." Then, the footage showed Simmons shoving Monica against the patrol car, his words now clear, biting, and unmistakable. "Women like you don't get to question me." The courtroom erupted louder this time, forcing the judge to repeatedly bang his gavel. That evening, at Monica's modest home, Benjamin expressed his apprehension. Monica then presented him with a worn, leather-bound folder containing her service record. Benjamin's eyes widened as he scanned the contents. "You were a Navy SEAL?" he muttered, astonished. Monica completed his thought. Lieutenant Commander, retired. She explained that this fight wasn't just about her, but about exposing the corruption and bias that allows people like him to get away with this. "Tomorrow we show the court the truth," Monica stated. "But we don't just expose Simmons for lying, we expose the system that enables him." She gestured to the folded flag on the mantel. "We make them see me, not as a defendant, but as the woman who spent 20 years protecting the very freedoms that man tried to strip from me." The next morning, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Officer Simmons returned to the stand, his earlier confident smirk replaced by a tight-lipped expression and darting eyes that betrayed his growing unease. Benjamin called Monica to the stand. Monica stood, her steps measured. Her presence alone seemed to command the room's attention, and when she sat, her posture was as straight as a soldier at attention. Benjamin began by reiterating the accusations against Monica: resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, attempting to seize a weapon. Monica firmly replied, "No, they are not." She calmly recounted how Simmons approached her without cause, demanded her ID, and when she simply questioned his reasoning, he accused her of being uncooperative. She testified that he grabbed her arm, refused to let go, shoved her against the patrol car, and handcuffed her. Monica then explicitly stated that his accusation of her reaching for his weapon was a complete fabrication. His actions weren't about law enforcement, she continued, her voice charged with emotion. They were about control, about asserting power over someone he assumed couldn't fight back. Then, Benjamin asked about Monica's background, hinting that there was more to her story. Monica's eyes met Benjamin's, and for the first time, her calm exterior gave way to a flicker of something deeper. Resolve, strength, and perhaps a hint of anger. "Yes," she said, her voice carrying the weight of decades of experience. "There is more." In a voice that cut through the silence like a blade, Monica announced, "I am Lieutenant Commander Monica Jackson, retired Navy SEAL." Gasps rippled through the courtroom, followed by a stunned silence. Even Judge Grayson seemed momentarily taken aback, his gavel frozen in midair. Simmons' face turned pale, his jaw tightening as if physically holding back his reaction. Benjamin pressed, "Miss Jackson, as a Navy SEAL, you were trained to handle high-pressure situations. Did you use any of that training during your encounter with Officer Simmons?" "Yes," Monica said without hesitation. "I used it to stay calm, to de-escalate the situation and to protect myself from harm without resorting to violence." She firmly stated that she did not attempt to harm Officer Simmons or reach for his weapon. "Simmons wasn't a threat to my safety," Monica declared. "He was a threat to my dignity, and I refused to let him strip me of that." The courtroom erupted once more, louder this time, as the weight of Monica's words settled over the room. When the noise subsided, Benjamin turned to the jury, his voice steady, but filled with conviction. Monica stepped down from the stand, her head held high, and leaned toward Benjamin, softly saying, "Now, let's see how long that wall holds." The courtroom was thick with tension, as Officer Bradley Simmons returned to his seat, his face pale and glistening with sweat. The composure he had carried into the courtroom earlier was gone, replaced by the faint tremble in his hands as he gripped the edge of the table. His fellow officers, who had been a silent wall of support in the back row, exchanged uneasy glances. They had come to see justice served, or so they thought, but now doubts were creeping into their minds like unwelcome shadows. The judge, his usually stoic face showing hints of weariness, looked over the room before turning to Simmons's lawyer, Mr. Avery. Richard Avery rose stiffly, his carefully curated demeanor showing the first signs of a crack. He adjusted his tie as if tightening a noose and stepped toward the witness stand, his voice carrying a faint edge of desperation. He called Simmons back to the stand, hoping to clarify inconsistencies in his testimony. Simmons, weighed down by scrutiny, moved stiffly, avoiding Monica's calm, intense gaze. Avery pushed. "And the video evidence presented earlier, how do you explain what the court saw?" Simmons hesitated, claiming the video was incomplete and doesn't capture the context of her behavior leading up to that moment. He insisted Monica was defiant and refused to cooperate, forcing him to act decisively to maintain order. Monica watched him with an almost pitying expression, her focus unwavering. Benjamin then rose for cross-examination, his presence looming without being overbearing. He pressed Simmons on the lack of physical evidence for his claim that Monica reached for his weapon. "You know what you saw," Benjamin stated, "but the court has seen something else. Video evidence that contradicts your account. Evidence that shows my client was calm and cooperative until you escalated the situation." Simmons maintained the video was taken out of context. Benjamin's voice grew louder as he addressed the jury, accusing Simmons of approaching a law-abiding citizen, demanding identification without cause, resorting to force when questioned, and then lying under oath. He turned back to Simmons, his voice dropping to a cold, quiet tone. "Officer Simmons, you accused a decorated Navy SEAL, a woman who has served this country with honor, of being a threat. Tell me, does it embarrass you to know that the person you tried to intimidate has faced dangers you couldn't begin to imagine?" Simmons flinched, his composure slipping further. "You weren't acting like a police officer," Benjamin shot back. "You were acting like a bully who thought he could get away with abusing his authority. But you didn't count on her standing up to you, did you?" The room was deathly silent. Simmons stepped down, his shoulders slumped, his fellow officers avoiding his gaze. Monica leaned toward Benjamin, a small smile tugging at his lips. The walls starting to crumble. Benjamin then presented the final piece of evidence, Officer Simmons's personnel record. He held it aloft for the jury to see, stating it revealed a pattern of behavior that speaks to his credibility, or rather his lack of it. Despite the prosecutor's objections, the judge allowed it. Benjamin addressed the jury, detailing how Simmons had been the subject of multiple complaints, excessive force, racial bias, improper conduct that were either ignored or buried by the department. He emphasized, "This is not just about one bad decision. This is about a pattern of abuse, a pattern that culminated in the false arrest and mistreatment of my client." Monica then rose to address the jury directly, her voice clear and steady. "My name is Lieutenant Commander Monica Jackson," she began. "For 20 years, I served in the United States Navy as a SEAL. I've been to places most people can't imagine, faced dangers most people will never know. And through it all, I've held myself to the highest standards of integrity and discipline." Her eyes swept over the jury. "I have faced enemies on the battlefield, but I never thought I would face one in my own country. That night I wasn't a threat. I wasn't breaking any laws. I was simply existing. Something that for people like me often feels like a crime in itself." She looked directly at Simmons. "You underestimated me, Officer Simmons, but more importantly, you underestimated the truth, and the truth has a way of coming to light." The room erupted into applause, despite the judge's gavel. In closing arguments, Prosecutor Avery, visibly strained, urged the jury to consider that law enforcement officers make split-second decisions and that Simmons believed he was acting in the public interest. He admitted, mistakes may have been made, but insisted Simmons was doing his job. Benjamin Carter rose next, calm and confident. He declared, "What we've seen here today is not a complex case. It is, in fact, painfully simple. He stated that Monica, a decorated Navy SEAL and an American hero, was profiled, mistreated, and lied about by a man who abused his power. "This isn't just about Monica Jackson," Benjamin passionately stated. "It's about accountability. It's about ensuring that those who wear a badge and swear an oath to protect and serve are held to the highest standards of integrity, because when they fail to do so, the entire system fails." He concluded by telling the jury they had the power to send a message that no one, not even an officer of the law, is above accountability. The jury was dismissed to deliberate. Monica and Benjamin waited, the hours feeling like days. "Do you think they'll see the truth?" Benjamin asked. Monica replied, "They don't need to see it, Ben. They need to feel it. The truth has a way of making itself known." The courtroom was packed when the bailiff announced the jury had reached a verdict. Monica stood beside Benjamin, her face unreadable. The foreperson of the jury, a middle-aged woman, stood and read the verdict. In the case of State versus Monica Jackson, we find the defendant not guilty on all charges. A wave of emotion rippled through the room. Gasps, murmurs, and quiet cheers. Monica exhaled softly, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in days. Benjamin placed a hand on her shoulder, a smile breaking through his professional demeanor. The foreperson continued. "Furthermore, we the jury strongly recommend that an investigation into Officer Simmons's conduct be pursued." The judge nodded gravely, stating, "The court will take this recommendation under advisement. Officer Simmons, I suggest you retain counsel. This matter is far from over." Outside the courthouse, the media swarmed, cameras flashing and microphones thrust forward. Monica stood tall, her presence commanding as she addressed the crowd. "This isn't just my victory," she said, her voice steady but filled with conviction. "This is a victory for accountability, for justice, and for everyone who has ever been silenced by those in power. I didn't fight this battle alone, and I won't stop fighting for others." The crowd erupted into applause. Months later, the long-term impact of Monica's stand began to ripple through the community and the justice system. Officer Simmons was not only dismissed from the police force but also faced criminal charges for perjury and misconduct. His former colleagues, once loyal, distanced themselves as the investigation uncovered more of his abuses. Monica returned to her quiet life, but her name became a powerful symbol of resilience and justice. Her story, now public, ignited conversations about police accountability and systemic bias, particularly concerning interactions with people of color. She was invited to speak at numerous events, her powerful narrative inspiring others to stand up against injustice, demonstrating that a single act of defiance against abuse of power could galvanize broader movements for change. Her courage resonated far beyond the courtroom, encouraging communities to demand greater transparency and oversight from law enforcement agencies. Though she had left the battlefield years ago, Monica Jackson knew that her fight for justice was far from over, and her victory served as a beacon, reminding everyone that truth, when fiercely defended, always finds a way to prevail, shaping a more just future. That's today's story from the Black Narrative. If it moved you or opened your eyes, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And most importantly, subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Until next time, stay strong, stay loud, and stay part of the narrative.